Hey everybody. So Miss Bridget asked me to read a book for you today, and the book that she gave me to read is Curious George Learns the Alphabet by H.A. Ray. Okay. This is George. He lived with his friend, the man with the yellow hat. Okay, I love Curious George, but Miss Bridget's not around, so I'm not going to read you this book. I'm going to tell you a story. So this is the story that I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you the story of the Woolly Man. Now, way back up in the woods, long time ago, there was a boy named Jack, and he lived in a very small cabin with his mama and his daddy. And every day his daddy would go into the field and take care of all the field work, and Jack would stay back with his mama. But now when he finished all of his chores, his mama would tell him, Jack, you can go anywhere you want to in the woods. You can do whatever you want to in the woods, but you have to make sure that you're back by sunset. And so Jack would run out into the woods, and he would do all kinds of fun things. He would climb trees, he would go fishing, he would go and find deer trails. He would just do wonderful things. He would run around barefoot. He would even sometimes find rabbits, and he would find sometimes snakes, and he would find all kinds of animals living in the woods. But he always came home at sunset. And his mama would have a nice meal waiting for him, and they would talk about everything that he had done that day. Well, one time, as Jack got a little bit older, he started asking his mama. He said, now, Mama, he goes, I'm older, so don't you think I can stay out later than sunset? Because there were other things that Jack wanted to see. He saw all kinds of animals and things like that during the day, but he knew that there were things out there that were just out at nighttime. And his mama said, no, you have to be home by sunset. And so he asked her, he said, why, Mama, why? And she goes, because the Woolly Man is out there. The Woolly Man? Yes, the Woolly Man. And the Woolly Man is tall and thin and lanky, and he's got all kinds of woolly hair all over him, and he smells to high heaven. He don't ever wear shoes, so his feet are real dirty. And the reason that you've got to be back by sunset is because the Woolly Man sleeps during the day and he's out at night, and one of his most favorite things that he loves to eat is little boys. And Jack stood there and thought to himself, I don't know if that is true. And she said, but the Woolly Man can also disguise himself. He can turn himself into anything living he can turn himself into. He can turn himself into the biggest bear you'd ever want to see. He could turn himself into the smallest frog you'd ever want to see. So you never know where he is until he just sneaks up on you, and there he is. So that's the reason that you have to be home by sunset. Well, Jack loved his mama, and he always did what his mama said, so he got home every single day by sunset. But one day, he went out further than he'd ever gone before, because he found himself a deer trail. It was a fresh deer trail, and he wanted to go and follow that deer trail to see if he could find the deer that made it. And he followed it and followed it and followed it until finally it broke into a beautiful pasture. And there in the middle of the pasture were all of these just beautiful deer. There were bucks, and there were fawns and does, and he got to sit there and watch them. Well, when he got up to leave, he realized that he'd stayed longer than he should have. And even though he started running as fast as he could, he knew he was not going to be home by sunset. But he was trucking, he was running, he was going as fast as he could, but the sun started to set, and as the sun started to set, the shadows started to fall, and it started to get darker and darker and darker. And finally, Jack was in the middle of the woods, and the only light was the full moon. He started walking down the path, looking side to side, side to side, and there, right in the middle of the path, was a jackrabbit. But this jackrabbit was no normal jackrabbit. This jackrabbit was looking at him like this jackrabbit knew him. And in the middle of that jackrabbit's head was one long woolly hair. And before Jack knew what happened, there was no jackrabbit anymore. There was the woolly man. There he was tall, and he was long, and he was lean, and he was thin, and he had bare feet, and he smelled worse than anything Jack had ever smelled in his whole entire life. You could go right now to your daddy's closet. You could go get his shoes. You could hold up his old tennis shoes in your face and breathe in as deep as you could. And the smell was 10 times worse. That old woolly man, he looked at Jack and he went, Jack. And Jack said, "You must be the woolly man." Now, don't think for 1 minute that Jack wasn't scared. Jack wasn't scared, but Jack knew that he shouldn't show that he's scared. And the woolly man said, "Yes, I am." And Jack said, "Well, if you don't mind, sir, I think I'll go home." And the woolly man said, "No, no, no, no." He said, "I just woke up and I was mighty hungry." And Jack said, "Yeah, I understand your favorite meal is little boys like me." He goes, "Yep, you're about 10 years old. That's my favorite." Jack said, "Well, before you eat me, I've heard that you can turn yourself into anything." Now, a little old jackrabbit, now that's one thing, he said, but I've heard you could turn yourself into a bear. And in front of Jack, the woolly man turned into a massive black bear, stood up on his back feet, and looked at Jack. And Jack went, "Whoa! That is impressive." He said, "But now, I've never seen myself a crocodile. Can you turn yourself into a crocodile? I'd love to see myself a crocodile before I get eat up." The man turned himself into the biggest crocodile you've ever seen. Why, Jack walked all the way around him. He was big and he was green and gray, had them big old teeth. He was an impressive crocodile. Jack said, wow, that is absolutely fantastic. You are an artist. You are a master." And then the woolly man, and he started moving closer to Jack, and he goes, "I'm powerful hungry, Jack." Jack said, "Well, that bear and that rabbit and that crocodile, that was pretty impressive." He said, "But you couldn't turn yourself into anything really teeny tiny." And the woolly man said, "I'm getting tired of this nonsense." Jack said, "I know you are. I'm sure you are. You're getting tired of this nonsense. But you know, you can't turn yourself into anything tiny. That would be really hard. I mean, big things, medium-sized things, that's easy. But little things, now that would be hard." And the woolly man said, "I can turn myself into anything living." Jack said, "Yeah, but you can't do anything really, really teeny tiny, can you?" The woolly man said, "I can do it. Just name it, I can do it." And Jack said, "Well, something tiny that's a little complicated. I know. Turn yourself into a teeny tiny black spider." Hanging from the closest tree leaf, right in front of Jack, almost to the point that it could have landed on Jack's nose, was a teeny tiny little black spider. And Jack said, "Whoa, that is impressive, woolly man." And Jack went home, and his supper was waiting, and nobody ever saw the woolly man again. But remember, Your mama knows best, so do what she says. But don't tell Miss Bridget I didn't read you Curious George. Bye.